Thanks for joining me today, everybody. I hope you enjoy this talk about primary suites, robes and retreats, and I'd love to hear your ideas at the end. Okay, so the primary suite is intended to be a place of luxury and serenity. When we're thinking about designing primary suites, we're trying to evoke the memories of a magnificent bedroom that you stayed in. Perhaps it was on your honeymoon or a beautiful holiday, but we're wanting you to have that gorgeous experience. We're thinking about, in that bedroom, a sense of space, comfort, simplicity, and ambience. Our role as designers is to create beautiful interior environments for these routines, rest, relaxation, and romance. So what's in a primary suite? Well, obviously we have the bed space, the bathroom, and the wardrobe. That's part of every single primary suite. But additionally, if we have the luxury of a really large space such as this, then we'll integrate dressing tables, a seating area, possibly an area for watching television as well. Now, it doesn't matter whether you have the luxury of such a large space as this. This is absolutely gorgeous, of course. That is just going to depend on the amount of space that we have to work with. So as designers, we work on the function, flow, and everything so that we can work in everything that you need, no matter how much space you have. Within limits, of course. We can't do magic. As a member of KBDi, it's wonderful that we get to collaborate with other designers. I have many friends in this industry. And so I thought it would be great for this topic, because you're all wanting to know what we put into primary suites, to consult other designers as to what they're finding their clients are looking for, in addition to what I find my clients are looking for. So the top three that I found that were consistent across everybody's clients' requirements were: everybody wants a beautifully calm bedroom. They want a functional bathroom, and they all want plenty of organised storage, just like James was saying. Everybody wants everything taken care of. So they're really looking to begin their day of calm and uncluttered environment is what they're working from. So before we get on to the technicalities of lighting, space planning, etc., we'll just touch on those lovely touches like soft furnishings. So insulating the room from the harsh environment externally, light, sound, and touch, is a really important factor in your primary suite, because this is where we're going to rest. We need to be very comfortable all the time. We don't want light coming in when it's unwanted. We don't want ugly reflections that we're hitting us in the eyes as we're trying to sleep. We want to feel warm. We want it to be soothing to our feet. We want all of our senses to be really comfortable and soothed. So we're thinking about what sort of window treatments do we need to filter that light and temperature under all conditions? What sort of floor coverings will make us feel comfortable and dampen down sound? And as I said, thinking about the material selections when you're doing a bedroom are very important, because reflections off glossy materials and mirrors will reflect back standby lights and any kind of light filtering through. So we're going to talk about specific elements of the bedroom, but at the moment, just in general, throughout any interior, and particularly your primary suite, lighting for the variety of activities and moods with intelligent switching is essential. If you think about, you start the morning in your bedroom where it could be dark, you're finishing when it's dark, and there's a variety of activities that are happening in that bedroom, from passing through to reading. So we want to make sure that that light is just perfectly suited to the situation. So I think of it like this: only light when, where, and with just how much, from dusk till dawn, with barely a touch. So we can have a beautiful experience with lighting. The next really important element of designing a primary suite, as I said earlier, not everybody has the luxury of a really large space. So we need to really think about how we're going to place things within the room so that you get everything that you want. So this is about having floor plans that flow with a comfortable and intuitive feeling. We're thinking about from packing a holiday luggage, to returning linen from the laundry, streamlining traffic to keep these daily routines calm and easy, as that's what everybody wants in their brief. So you can see here that when we're designing the space, we want to think about people walking through with their baskets of laundry, with their luggage, as they're making the bed, that there is enough space for people to do all of the things that they need to do really comfortably. And yet, we need to make the most of every bit of space as well. And if this is not the passion project of the home, I don't know what is. It's the bedroom. There is no more private and personal space than the bedroom. So we want to make sure that we have their heartfelt desires attended to, right down to the nitty-gritty of how they want to store their jewelry and their cufflinks and what sort of fabrics they want and what their really intimate personal possessions are. So how do designers make sure that we know what all of your intimate personal desires are? We don't just go straight to the drawing board. We like to say to our clients, let's sit down, have a chat. We need to really have a good old chinwag about when you say this is your goal, we pick out, does this person agree with that? Does this person agree with that? Are we fully aligned on what we're talking about? Because it is really, really common that we might be talking to someone and they're both saying they want, let's just say, Hamptons. And when I ask one person what Hamptons means to them, they'll give me one description, ask the same thing to the other partner, and they'll have a totally different idea. And it's not until you pull all those things out, you maybe share some ideas in photos, that we can really clarify, oh, okay, actually it's not Hamptons, it's just like a simple shaker style with a little bit of timber is what you're really talking about. And then we're on a much clearer path. And that applies to every single facet of that bedroom, from functionality to look and feel. Click. Okay, so what we do after having that conversation, we will have a very detailed brief, which is a list of your requirements right down to the last end. And what we do then is we rank those in an order of priority. The reason we do that is as we give you ideas as to how we're going to bring this to fruition, sometimes the planning moves out and away from what you were originally thinking. It could be a cost blowout, it could be something else. The brief serves for us to bring you back and go, hang on a minute, here on the brief, your top 3 requirements were X, Y, and Z. You've now asked us to do this. That's going to shift away. So the brief is fantastic for bringing us back to exactly what you want, or to allow you to revise your requirements in an informed way. So let's just use this one as an example. I know it's not very clear. You don't really need to see high detail. It's just, this is what we do after we've got the brief. We're brainstorming our ideas as designers through pictorial concepts, and we would represent your space in a variety of ways, and then we would list the pros and cons. So this is an actual project. The original space was something like this, although there wasn't any storage in there. And so the problem was the view is actually out here. It's a harbour view on a beachfront property. So this wall here is blank. This is an upstairs level. And the bed faces these little windows. They're not actually the size drawn in this picture. And it's like, what on earth is going on here? You've got this beautiful top floor, and the bed is facing out onto another house. So what they really wanted us to do was just do a walk-in wardrobe. But it was like, let's just change a few things around conceptually and see what else we could come up with. So we started with the idea of what if we built a small wall here and put the bed here, and you could have a view straight out from your bed to the harbour. You'd have your walk in here, and this could actually become a retreat space. But the one we went for in the end was the second concept, because we really pushed this out with the idea of breaking through this wall. It didn't need to be structural, just a big opening. And the tricky bit you'll see in the drawings is there's a couple of windows here, and they're really small, but they're low and they're in the way. But we decided we could get around that by running some joinery all the way along the back, positioning the bed in front of that joinery, which actually deals with the low-level window, because the sight of eye goes from the bed down to the window. You can't actually tell the bed is higher than the window. And that afforded them a retreat space TV view. Anyway, I'll show you the next, because the next thing we do is we go to videos. So this is where I have to click again. From that concept, the client tells us what their preference for the layout is, and then we will work toward doing some sort of a video walkthrough. We love to create a sense of arrival. This is at the top of the stairs, a mirror with some plants in front. Here you can see, obviously, the bed is now positioned beside the window, so they can open that window, have a lovely breeze. They can watch television from their bed. They've got this very nice extra space, which obviously is lovely for sitting and watching television. It also would serve for a younger couple as a nursery. Creating some additional storage, always beneficial. We always do that wherever you can. You can see how lovely this is, how this space has really opened out. So this area here was previously a closed-in area and felt, you know, the whole space was just really not working. These are the little windows. So it's not, this is just a render. I haven't actually got photos of the project, but by setting the joinery in behind this bed, the bed comes forward, the joinery runs all the way down there, and then the angle of the bed frame to the window doesn't occlude the sight through the window. This area here will have a door on it, but at the moment, if we had the door on there, you wouldn't be able to see. That we created a luggage and shoe cabinet, a shoe walk-in for these people. The reason we did that, A, they have a lot of shoes and they have a lot of luggage, but B, what that does, when I was talking about space planning, is it takes the pressure out of the walk-in wardrobe space so that they have ample storage for their clothing. So what we've done is we've sort of used the boring parts of the building for the storage, that little luggage space, and then we've created this lovely open space of flowing, and when I was talking about flow, into the bathroom over here, through the wardrobe, back into that space. And one of the really lovely effects that we got was when I first saw the client, it's, as I said, it's a beautiful property right on the harbour. You arrive at the top of the stairs and you were just straight into the room, and it felt really boring. So here is where we created a little entry space. It's not showing up too well, but that's just the idea. So that little entry space that I'm talking about is a really lovely element to add to your primary suite if you have the opportunity to. Because for me, it's like here I've got written, the escape from the outside world of busyness into their world of serenity. So we're just creating some sort of separation, if possible, from the main part of the house into their private retreat. And so, it could be, like I've got here, crossing a threshold. It could just be a piece of art. It could be, like I did in the other one, an entrance area with a mirror and a little bit of space for a shelf and a plant. Or it could just be some artwork, as Darren James has done here in this lovely effect with the dark, contrasting wallpaper. It just sort of sets the mood. It gives you a moment of pause before you enter that primary suite. So now I'm going to talk about lighting in the primary suite and lighting regarding the specific spaces within the primary suite. Okay, so we'll start with the bed space. I've consulted Adele Locke of Mint Lighting Design. She's a fellow designer of KBDi. She gives us all great advice, and one of her recommendations for the master bedroom, and actually, in fact, many rooms for lighting, is to just leave your ceiling as clear as possible. Don't put downlights everywhere. You can see here, like when you think about the purpose of the room when you're doing the lighting. The purpose of a bedroom is rest, relaxation, and occasionally the only task that really happens there is reading. So the only time you're going to need really bright light is right at the bed. You don't need bright light anywhere else. You have sufficient light over here with just some angled lights over onto the joinery. That will be well away from your face. So be a bit creative about how you do lighting so that you get different effects, not just this overall rain of light over the room. So just a few pointers. Dimmable reading lights separated per person are fantastic. So if you're reading in bed, one person's asleep, one person's reading, have them separate. If you're tight for space, mounting your lights on the wall will save your space on the bedside table. Sometimes we eliminate bedside tables altogether because they can actually really cramp the space when you're trying to get a really good floor plan in. Adjustable light fittings on the walls are really convenient if you're reading for a long time so that you can adjust your position and not have the shadowing. And think about the convenient switching. It's really important, particularly when you, say, for example, go for the option of the main lighting in that bedroom being at the bed. You're going to want to turn the light on at the door, and you're going to want to turn it off at the bed. So you need to do two-way lighting. Lighting in the ensuite. So here is an area where we've got high degree of task requirements. So we're needing to look in the mirror for whatever activities we're doing there. And then at other times we're wanting a low, soft mood for just relaxing in the bath or relaxing in the shower. So the pointers for lighting in the ensuite: avoid shadowing from cabinetry. So if you have gone for ceiling lighting, make sure you set that far enough back from the cabinet so that when you open those doors, you're not casting a shadow over the mirror that you're trying to use. Place a combination of diffuse and directional lights that fall between the face and the mirror. So what we're talking about there is if you've ever tried to use a mirror and you've got a shadow and you can't actually see whatever you're doing with your face, you need to have the light fall. Here is the mirror, here is your face. It has to fall right down between those two planes, ideally from left and right, and additionally, ideally, from directly above in a cast of just a ray of light that's diffuse flowing down. That way you'll be able to see absolutely everything. Another really nice thing for the ensuite is to have a motion sensor detector to set off your low-level lighting, so that if someone needs to go to the bathroom during the night or they're an early shift worker, they can get into that space without being really woken up too much if they're going back to bed, and they're not waking the other person too much either. No light directly over the bath. We go into the bath to relax, so we certainly don't want some bright beam over the top of us. That goes for the bed as well, but we mentioned that. And dimmers for mood lighting. Look, if you can get dimmers, they don't cost very much. I would put them on almost every single thing you can have. Wardrobe lighting. There are so many different ways to light your wardrobe. This can be a function of cost. It isn't absolutely essential to light your wardrobe, but it is a very popular inclusion. Definitely increases the wow factor. Definitely makes it easier to see if you've chosen a dark joinery color. Regarding if you have chosen a dark cabinetry like we did here in this dressing room, it's essential to put dimmers on those lights. If you think about in the mornings or at night when you're going into a dressing room, often there is no natural light. If you've got dark joinery in a dark space and those lights are too bright, they will wash out all the color and you'll be in too much glare and you actually can't see anything. So your eyes need to adjust. So you need those dark cabinets lit with lights on dimmers. You might want to lift it up as your eyes adjust, but if you're in and out quickly in the morning with very bright lights, you will not be able to actually see any of the clothing and you'll go out in the wrong colored gear. So avoid, it can be a lovely look to have the kickboard lit. It's a beautiful look. It's not so great if you haven't vacuumed and you've got dust balls everywhere. So if you're not likely to get around cleaning, also think very carefully about what you're highlighting with your lights. Some people love that backlit look, a bit like if I was to stand in front of the screen, they might have their handbags and shoes with a cast light behind. It's a very glamorous look that you'll see in the boutiques. The mistake on that one will be that if you don't light it also from the front, all the color will be washed out of the objects again, and all you'll see is black handbags and black shoes. So definitely do that backlighting if you like it, but you definitely need to have some lights angling toward the colors as well. If you think about people and the activities they're doing in that dressing room, they're not only going in and out to get dressed, but they're taking their laundry back. So a motion sensor, again, just like in the bathroom, that comes on as you enter the room is wonderful. You're coming back from the dry cleaners or the laundry, you don't have to put everything down, turn on the light. And yes, I like dimmers, so dimmers are winners everywhere. Okay, we've done lighting now. We're going to move to space planning. So that's the idea of where we should be putting things in this space and what the most convenient layout will be. Maximizing space as well is usually a big plus. So I consulted Tanya Closter, one of our other KBDi designers for this one. She's great on these tiny little bathrooms. She's great on lots of things. So I just asked Tanya what were her 3 top tips for a small bathroom. She said, avoid small gaps that create hard to clean places. So that's those little bits of where all the hair and dust collects around the bath and behind the toilet and that sort of thing. Good design will eliminate those. Add niches for storage and decorative items of interest within reach of freestanding baths and showers. We already know about the ones for the showers. They're very, very convenient. They're also very space efficient. But if you think about it, if you're going to have a freestanding bath, you're going to want a few objects there. So you don't want to have to jump out of the bath to go and grab them. So a little niche is a really nice element to add there. So you can see here how Tanya's been very clever with the space. It's a really small area. So good tips on space planning here. It's visual and functional. So one of the clever tricks that designers tend to do in small spaces, if we possibly can, we're always thinking how to enlarge the space, how to make it look more beautiful than just the box that it is. And it can just be done with very simple elements of design. This shelf up here in the shower, it's not a huge shower, but it's plenty big enough. Obviously, it's great for storage. It adds some visual interest, but the clever trick that it does is it draws your eye from, as you enter, to the back top shelf, which is a very long access. So it actually tends to make your eye feel that the room is larger than it actually is. So these are clever tricks, optical illusions. And, you know, these little half-height walls, they're only, you know, like small like this. That's very handy space in a bathroom. It tends to make us feel that we have more space around us. So, you know, really clever thinking about what's actually going into the space and how small something can be with still being useful. Okay, so space planning in the bedroom. This is where we need to get very clever because this is usually where we're really trying to make space for the other elements. So we want the bed to be the primary focus of the room. We want the bed to be this beautiful effect of how inviting that looks. So typically we would like the bed to be opposite the window if possible, if not just somewhere where we have a lovely view from the bedroom. It could be art, it could be joinery. What we're thinking about in this area is, have we got enough space for the adjoining areas? Have we got enough space for the ensuite and have we got enough space for the wardrobe? If so, we can go for gold. If not, that's where we start to go back to that brief and we look at the requirements on the brief for storage and the ensuite, and we might say, we actually didn't get everything in. We're not going to get everything in. We need to regain some space. The wardrobe's a little bit tight, so maybe we start to integrate some additional storage into the bedroom as well as the dressing room if we need to. Same thing happens here. When we've gone back to the brief and we see we haven't got enough space, we can say we haven't got enough space for the shoes. What if we do a cabinet here just outside the ensuite? We can then tag team that. Instead of a bedside table, we can save space by doing a reverse cabinet here. On the other side, there's shoes or hats or whatever else needs to go in. So these are tricks that really benefit you if you choose to get a designer in before your build is finished, before the doors and windows have gone in, because we might say to you, sometimes people have a window that sort of is like this height, and it's not really achieving a lot. The view from here is really useful. The view down there doesn't really do anything, but a window down there, you cannot put a piece of joinery in front of. So if you imagine, you know, that they had a window, say, for example, here, like one of the earlier slides, you can have a credenza running all the way under there. Underneath the window, it creates a lovely feature. It also gives you great storage. Same with the position of doors. If this doorway went straight through there, we would not have a return here. It's not going to drive the design. You're never going to decide how to design your room based on the storage. The primary focus will always be how beautiful we want this room to be. But by having a very good brief and having designers who will play around with this, we can eke things in around the doors and windows if we can. And if we can move those things sometimes, it can make an enormous difference to the way it all works. Some basics that we would always work to as a minimum, 700 millimeters from the bed to a wall so that you can get in and make the bed and comfortably get into bed. It's really lovely if we can create space for an additional chair or a sofa. That makes it feel so much more luxurious. What else have we got? Oh, enough space for curtains. This really needs to be thought of as early in the plan as you possibly can. If you particularly want your room to be free of light when you're sleeping, you may want to integrate a pelmet into the ceiling early on in the plan so that it's a seamless look. The curtains are concealed all the way up into the ceiling. No light pollution will then come out if you run your curtains all the way back to the walls and all the way to the floor. If you don't think to do that, what will happen is you're either going to have a bit of an ugly pelmet or you're going to have some light coming up over. So all these things go into the planning in the beginning. Also think about if you're having curtain rods, when you're planning joinery, that you need to allow space for either the shutters to open or the curtain rods to sit back. So always thinking about every single thing that's going to happen before you actually design any fixed pieces of furniture. And recessed joinery with integrated lighting and floating shelves, like I said earlier, can be a great way in a tight space to get space for your lighting behind, a little bit of space for a coffee cup or teacup, and eliminate those bedside tables can make that space workable versus not workable. This is an example of when you really don't quite have enough space and you've got the traditional walk-in wardrobe that a lot of people have, where you've got the galley style. So this sort of thing, it's not as tight as it looks in this photo, it's a bit distorted, but in a typical project home, you'll have this, usually 2 runs of cabinetry. The standard size for that is 60 centimeters, just like all wardrobes, because that's how wide we are basically across the shoulders. But sometimes what you need more space for your bathroom or for the bedroom. So this is where getting a designer in who will actually calculate the amount of hanging versus the amount of shelving versus the amount of shoes can make, in this case, it made the bed fit into this room so that the clients could open the door into the room. What we did was oops, went slide now. How do I go back? Go that way. Yes. Okay, perfect. What we did is instead of doing the 600 and 600, once we calculated the amount of lineal hanging they needed and arranged it in a really clever way, we were able to put all the 600 down here for the hanging, and then all of this side, you can see it's actually shallower. It's only 380, which is all you need for jumpers, t-shirts, drawers, underwear, socks, shoes, handbags, which is a large component of most people's storage, which equated to them saving 23 centimeters in the bedroom, which meant this bed could go further back so that it's basically, you can see here, the bed moved further back and everything fitted in. They had space for their windows. It may be that that wouldn't work for some people. It could be that instead of making the whole run 380, you could make part of it 380 so that the bed fitted, and then you could tuck it back out here and have a recess for the bed to fit into. So all of this is very detailed information about really valuing every single centimetre and establishing exactly what your requirements are. Storage around the bed, it's quite straightforward. Most people don't need a lot, but you do want to think about the few things done properly. So you need some space to charge whatever devices you have. If you're going to have bench tops for your cup of tea and coffee, it's ideal if they're pretty close to your mattress height, so you're not knocking it over as you go to grab it. A little bit of space for books is always nice. If you can, a lot of people love it if you can integrate some storage for those cushions that are sitting on the bed or the doona that you don't quite like. So whether that's something at the end of the bed, it can actually be something behind the bed, which is what we did with that video walkthrough project that I had, where we moved the bed forward, we put a lift up top behind, and that's where they tuck their doonas. Okay, now what a gorgeous bathroom that is. I think we would all love that. So what's on the wish list for the bathroom? Well, again, it's going to depend on what you've got. But if you've got the space, everybody loves a separate toilet. Lots of people really love to have 2 basins with a nice amount of bench space for whatever it is, whatever activities they're doing. A demistable mirror, Bluetooth is popular. Face height storage is really convenient. If you can't do face height storage, drawers underneath your vanity. Make sure that when you do your storage, you've thought about the tallest objects that need to store. Otherwise, they're going to get on that counter, and there goes your decluttered look. Always remember to include a bin, storage for your towels, storage for your toilet paper, hanging rails for your towels that are long enough for your towels so that they'll dry. If you want that uncluttered look, a laundry hamper is great that's integrated into your joinery, or if you have the luxury of a laundry chute, that's fantastic. Floor heating is popular. A deep bath is obviously comfortable. It also keeps the water hotter for longer, so that's a good idea if you love a big soak. The low-level sensor lighting, as I said before, for those nighttime visits. Always put some robe hooks in if you've got space, because that's a lovely thing to have. And a seat is very comfortable as well if you ever have an injury to have to sit down and do whatever undressing you need to do there without trying to do yoga at the same time. All right, now we know that the wardrobe is all about storage, but there are ways to do it well, and there are ways to fail at it. So the first thing we do is make sure we allocate enough hanging space for everything that you're going to need. When you think back to what I was saying before about the space planning, often if we need to, we can accommodate the things that don't fit in that dressing room in and around the bedroom, because things like shoes and bags are smaller. So they can go into a credenza, they could go into a shallow cabinet. So hanging cannot fit anywhere else other than the dressing room, so that's the first thing off the list. And it's essential to make sure that every item is measured. I mean, not literally every item, but categorize those clothing according to their length so that you get the effect that we've done here. His suits fit exactly the length. We've measured his longest shirt. We've measured her longest dress. Which the reason we do that is not just because we're really fussy, it's because what that turns into is useful storage down the bottom here. So we knew that she could reach to here, her dresses are this length, we now have this much left over. We can either use that as a drawer at the bottom for her shoes, or we might choose to make it a shelf at the top for her hats. That's just a matter of whatever it is that works and makes the most space for their storage requirements. That's all about ergonomics, and the other really big thing about ergonomics is, again, getting away from that idea of stock standard sizes. So where we did that other walk-in with all of that shallow shelving going down that left side, that's actually what I do regardless of whether we have more space or not, because that's what keeps these wardrobes tidy. You can see just here this shelf, like that's actually recessed back further than the hanging, and that's done for that very reason. So when people fold their gear and they put it on the shelf, it sits just like it does in the shops, really neatly, and then we put the shelves really close together because there's no need to go to the back. You have more shelves in. It's like books in a bookshelf. They sit perfectly neatly and organized. Where else are we up to? So that's our space maximization, ergonomics. People love to have symmetry. They love those beautiful pictures in Pinterest of everything lined up. They're really not real, most of those photos, because if you think about your clothing, you're going to have short items, tall items, long items, some of this, some of that. If you want to go symmetry, you are going to lose space. So try not to get too tied up on everything lining up. A really lovely design will work beautifully when you leave it to the designer just to make those lines come together. I mean, this one here is an example of that. It's absolutely beautiful, and yet the cabinet sizes all vary according to the needs, so there's no wasted space that way. Always include a laundry hamper if you didn't put it into the bathroom, just to, again, maintain that uncluttered look. Ironing board is very useful in these primary suites if the laundry is a long way from the bedroom. Clothing refreshers are becoming popular. These are cabinets that are electrical. They're like a dry cleaning unit. You put them into the dressing room. They cost a bit of money, but they will deodorize, demold, dehumidify. Put your clothes in there for 24 hours. It takes all the moisture out. So interesting addition. Valet hooks are fantastic if you like to plan your clothing outfits the day before. So you might sort of go, I'm wearing this and I'm wearing this, and you pop them out on the hooks, and that's great. Also really handy for holiday packing when you they're nice big strong hooks that'll hold quite a lot of weight. So you can plan your clothing, plan your luggage packing. Speaking of luggage, allow space for your suitcases, for those wonderful holidays we're all allowed to do now. And I always like, if I possibly can, to include some sort of a horizontal bench for packing suitcases if you do a lot of packing. That could be on the island. It could be a slide-out shelf. It's just always nice to include that if you are doing that, rather than putting the suitcase on the floor. It makes it a little bit hard work. Now, a seat is always really useful if you're doing your shoes. So here we saved space by angling the shoes. This is the 600 that you needed here. Pulled that back, brought it forward for a seat. It's plenty big enough for him to sit on and do his shoes right where his shoes are. It's really convenient. Full-length mirror, always essential. And make sure that you've allocated enough space for your belts, ties, jewelry, all those accessories. There's a range of ways to do those. They go in at the end. You ideally want a whole lot of vertical and horizontal shallow space for those. Dressing tables are another element that are very, very popular in primary suites. They can either be in the dressing room, as this one is. It could be in the ensuite, and it may just be in the main bedroom. What we're doing is, one of the important things to think about is, where do you like to do your makeup? Some people like to do it in the bathroom so they can wash their hands as they're doing it. Others don't need that. So obviously that's going to determine a little bit where you might put your dressing table. It's up to you as to what you're going to store. So obviously jewelry, makeup. Now with makeup, the important factor here, a few people have joined us since I mentioned earlier about the light for the makeup. What you really need for your makeup is light between the mirror and your face. You need a diffuse light that rains down this way, and you need directional light from left and right to fall on your face. Critically important if you're really into it for makeup is this is not Kelvin. A lot of people are familiar with warm and cooled lights. This is CRI. It's the color rendering index. It's the determining factor that will show true color in something. So if you have a painting that you want lit well, you want a high CRI. If you're doing makeup and it's really important, you need the high CRI. Otherwise, your colors are not truly representational. Include a bin, a space to charge your appliances, again, if that's where you're going to do it. Sometimes we'll do a secret drawer rather than a safe. Most people have pretty good securities. They don't really need safes these days. If you do a safe, integrate it. We like to do it in a drawer so that you're not crawling on the floor to a floor safe when you're all getting ready to go out. It really doesn't make any sense when you're all dressed glam to be getting on the floor on your knees. Think about whether you sit or stand to do your makeup, because obviously that's going to determine the height of the bench and whether you'll have storage underneath. Again, if you're doing hair products there, make sure you know how tall your tallest hair appliance or product is. And another really great asset, even if you're not using it yet, it's possible if you're going to be there for a long time, it'll be useful, a magnified lit mirror that's on an adjustable arm so that you can actually really get up really close and see exactly what you're doing. It's very handy. The other thing about the dressing table or the dressing room, it's a really lovely place to go to town on gorgeous finishes. So this is that little bit of where your heart desire part comes in, you know, lovely finishes like we've done the mirror here with some laminate. This is like a metal laminate matching this metal laminate. Thinking about when you're at the dressing table, the drawer that you want to access, that's why I did this drawer this way. So she's going to sit there, so it's better to have a little drawer so she can actually pull that open while she's sitting at the drawer. Otherwise, you're pulling it out and now you're like this. Okay, and the last space that comes into that beautiful primary suite is that little bit of luxury, depending on how much space you have. A place to sit, relax, romance, watch television, whatever it is that you like, adding some beautiful materials, some lovely textures and personalization. If you are going to have a television and you want to watch it from the bed, remember that it needs to be high enough for you to be able to watch it clear of your toes, because nothing worse than sitting in bed and you're watching and all you can actually see is your toes. I think that's pretty much it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, and if there's something that you'd love in your primary suite, give us a call. Thank you.
Great to hear all of that applause. Are you all feeling like beautiful wardrobe storage envy now? It's amazing, Sally, to see how you can put spaces together so beautifully. It's not just about hanging clothes and, putting a space for our socks, and there's so much more than that. You are creating this beautiful lifestyle space. Like, I'm sure in the years that you've been creating these spaces, you've seen the space evolve and the expectations and the understanding of the space evolve by your clients.
Yes, James. We were talking about this yesterday, that how people's requirements have changed. I mean, when I started designing wardrobes many years ago, the average size wardrobe was 2.4 meters long. The average size wardrobe now would be, well, in comparison, it would be at least 8. When you compare, like it'd be 2 runs of 4 meters. Previously, a walk-in wardrobe was a dream. Now it's a standard because people just have so many more clothes, and they, as you know, they have lots and lots of shoes, lots of handbags. So yeah, and it's become an experience.
I think some ladies there, the shoes are so expensive, they put the shoes in the safe and leave the money and the jewels out.
And the handbags.
And the handbags.
Yes.
What I really love as well is that idea of being able to be prepared for spaces. You mentioned yesterday about, these appliances almost that you can put suits in that re-air the suits, because instead of them dry cleaning, which is a cost and deteriorates the fabric, it's giving longevity. For me, it's a bit simpler, being able to have that nice valet where I will change my shirt, but I might wear the pants again, like men will hang pants over and wear them again. I'm not washing them. They're going to last longer because I'm not washing them. I'm saving water. There's all these environmental benefits, but they're also not thrown over the back of a chair or crunched up on the floor. So understanding how people live is part of that early stage when you create or connect with your clients?
Yes, James, that's right. So that's like that, going back and talking to people in depth on the couch. The bit about, I took the slide out because I thought, oh, look, it wasn't that relevant, but there is one in my other presentation which is talking about the way people do things, and everybody is different. And, some people like to just throw their clothes on the chair, but usually that's because they don't have a simpler solution. The people that throw it on the chair, they're not going to roll it up, they're not going to tie it in a little bow. That might be another person in the bedroom. But for those people that do it that way, we make it simple with a hook. So it's like, if you're going to throw it over the chair, okay, that's your way. How would it be if we just put a nice hook very close? Could you do that? And most of them are like, yes. And as I said to you, I mean, I don't particularly want to fold everything up if I'm going to grab it the next day. No. I mean, that's what the purpose of a rope hook is. And so basically we're using those rope hooks as what I call dog walking clothes. So you're going to walk that dog tomorrow in that same thing, just that's a dog walking rope hook.
The connection between this ensuite and the walk-in robe, and then where you're sleeping in the bedroom to create this hotel experience. It's interesting to see how that would have become much more of a, I want this now in my home over the last 2 years where we haven't been able to travel as much. I'm almost creating that hotel experience at home. I can, turn off the computer, walk upstairs, put some flowers around my neck, and I'm instantly on holidays in my own bedroom. I think it's quite exciting.
It is exciting, and I think it's also because both people are working long hours. They're professional, they're getting paid a lot of money, and they want to have that beautiful experience at home to reward them for all the effort they're putting in. So.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. Have I got any questions at all for Sally Hart? I always tell people, they say home is where the heart is, and sometimes great storage is where the Sally Hart is. Do you like that?
Thank you for that great presentation, Sally. My question is, with walk-in wardrobes, is doors versus no doors. So you must get this question a lot.
No, it's a great one.
Because I'm just wondering, I notice a lot of them don't, and is that to create a sense of space or...
Okay, it is a really great question. I actually did have it in the presentation and took it out, but it's interesting because 2 people have asked that. So it's a really good one. There's a lot of different answers. So it goes back to that first point on the brief. So if I was with you, and often there's 2 people involved, and it can often be that one person likes doors and one person dislikes doors. So it's always like, what is it about, and these are never judgmental questions, it's to understand, what the right solution might be. What is it about doors that you like? What is it about doors that you don't like? Because the reasons can be, one, it can be, I don't want to see all the mess and clutter and colour. It can be, I'm concerned about dust on my clothing. It could be that the clothing is going to fade if it's not covered. It could be, what are the other reasons? Some people, the clutter. Then the opposition of that is doors. Some people say, I want to be able to get to everything at once, and I can't do that if I have doors. Or I don't like the clearance that we need. It's going to make the space too claustrophobic and too tight if we put doors in. Sometimes it's, I don't like sliding doors. So once we've worked out the answers to those questions, then we would be, be more informed. So if it's that the doors opening is a problem, it depends. So are you referring, you'd be referring to a walk-in. So sometimes what we might do is if a person really wants doors, but there's a reason not to do it because the other person doesn't like it or the space is too tight, that's when we might say, well, let's put doors on one portion of the wardrobe. So let's put it on the clothes that are not used as often or the clothes that you're really concerned. Or if it's a visual thing, there's a few where I've done doors just in the part that you can see from the walk-in. So if it was that someone said, I just don't want to see all the clutter, but it's actually not really practical to put doors on the entire thing because of all the space, we'll go, well, let's just block the vision as you walk past with doors. So we might do this wall with doors. So as you walk past, you're seeing this lovely plane of doors. But when you get in there on the other side, it's actually all open. So I'd be happy to talk to you further about your specific. But
How's
yes.
that?
We'd be renovating to sell. so like, what's the
Right. Okay.
market sort
Okay.
of generally wanting?
Okay, well, there's two factors there. So if you're renovating for sale, you're looking for profit. So it's cheaper to go with outdoors. Okay. And I would say that probably the preference would be for an open space.
Thank you. Any other questions at all? I feel like you're speaking to me, Sally, when you talk about one side organised and one side not. On one side of our wardrobe, Sandro manages to keep all the shirts like a box of paper from Officeworks, and he lifts them and takes the shirt and puts it back on, and I'm one that goes down like pulls that out and it sort of ends up chaotic. So it is about your habits. And it's almost like the study, you know. If you're messy, close the doors. If you're organised, you can have the glass doors.
Yep.
It's not just a one-size-fits-all.
No, and it actually makes the space more interesting. You know, like, I mean, these are the wonderful things. That's why design is more interesting, is you're not just going, well, here's a solution, that's it, go for it. It's what do you need? What are the challenges? How can we make it work? And really, like I was saying, tweaking it at the edges to get the details they need.
And lighting, you've touched on lighting. Lighting has changed so much, but it's so important in a walk-in robe, especially in the morning. You think you're putting indigo on dark blue when you're wearing black and blue together because you've grabbed the wrong stuff. So lighting is something that's so important.
It is.
And creating that nice mood as well, so you can have your Devil Wears Prada moment and have your glass of champagne in there and look at all your clothes.
Well, it literally highlights the spaces. So another thing to think about is which elements you want to highlight. So in that beautiful dressing room at the end with the metallic laminates, you know, that steals the show. That's the place for the beautiful backlit mirror. And you know, with a few different ways of switching that, sometimes that room is just lit from behind with the mirror. Sometimes it's like dimmed down really low.
Yeah.
And and sometimes
Nice
they just
and
need
moody.
it. Yeah, sometimes they need it full on so that they're just packing and busy. So
Now,
It
for the
adds-
husbands there, I think they should support the wives and have a beautiful walk-in robe. I think that you should bankroll putting mirrors behind where all of the handbags and shoes are. It makes them look amazing, but it also looks like they have double the amount and they don't have to go shopping as often. I think it's a very clever thing.
it's very nice.
I'm a cheeky devil, aren't I? You can see Sally Hart's details up there. You definitely should be following on Instagram. It's almost like, you know, designer, beautiful ideas that she shares so much on her website. And when you are ready to create the most beautiful space, you know where to go. She has a beautiful way of explaining everything and, of course, creates beautiful spaces. We are lucky to have you on the stage here for 3 days, Sally Hart, and a very valued member of the KBDi, the Kitchen Bathroom Design Institute. Please put your hands together for Sally Hart. Thank you so much.
Thanks, James.
She's
Thank
also
you.
our
Thank
last
you.
presenter here on day 3 of the home show. We have had a cracking lineup here. We've had such great expertise over the 3 days, and we've had a great audience as well. We value your time, so thank you for coming to the home show. We have teamed up KBDi with the home show for next year, and we are creating a kitchen and bathroom expo. So there will be more on display as the home show evolves and grows. So we look forward to seeing you next year. Take care of yourselves. Create beautiful spaces. The home show doesn't close yet, so get up, have a look around. We've got beautiful smiling faces all the way around here. We've got the French Connection over there. Have a look around, and if you're overwhelmed, get your chakra done, come back and have a look around for more information. Thanks so much for being part of the home show, everyone. And a big shout out to Richard up the back. Thanks for all your tech. Wizzo, mate. We love your work. Thanks, mate. Thank you.